Gracious and loving God, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be acceptable to you this day, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. So we have this amazing setup. I love it. I hope you can picture it in your head. It's early in the morning. It's right in the middle of the Passover feast. And the chief priest and other members of the Sanhedrin are dragging Jesus through the streets all the way to Pilate's house. And they wake him up. And they hand him over to Pilate and say, "Here, kill him." And Pilate is befuddled. Here Jesus is standing before the one guy who can make or break his career. And Pilate is befuddled. I don't know if you noticed the movement, but John gives us a lot of stage direction in this passage. Pilate first goes out, then he comes back in, then he goes back out again. You would think this man who is all powerful in this particular region would be the one saying, "No, you come to me." So who's really pulling the strings? Makes you wonder. What I find so fascinating about this passage is that we see all of these role reversals happening in this passage. People that you think should be in power are not really in power. People that you think shouldn't be in power are in power. And Jesus is sort of standing over here observing it all, taking it all in. Pilate's statement to the Jewish leaders is pretty telling. "Take him yourselves and judge him according to your law." Wants to ditch the responsibility that's been placed in his lap. Wants to give it back to the Jewish leaders where it belongs. After all, they're the ones that drag him through the street at daylight. Funny how they have an excuse for not dealing with Jesus. What do they say? "We're not permitted to put anyone to death." So the mock trial that just occurred, the part that we didn't hear, all of the ins and outs of Caiaphas and his cronies, asking Jesus 1,000 questions, and what does Jesus do? He stands there, and he doesn't say a word. And from that, they determine that he needs to be put to death. John, I love it too, he gives us this parenthetical, this was so that something could be fulfilled. And we see this a lot throughout Scripture, the fulfillment of this, the fulfillment of that. Jesus has been predicting for a while now the kind of death that he would endure. He's been telling his disciples on and on and on about how he was going to have to die this horrible death. And John in particular, he tells us that death equals life. He also tells us something about truth in the book of John. I am the truth. I am the way. I am life. We have Jesus standing here before Pilate, and we have this unusual conversation. Can you imagine walking into the president's office and having this kind of conversation? Probably not. In fact, I would say that if there was ever a poop your pants kind of moment, this would be it, would it not? I would be shaking in my shoes. And yet, Jesus and Pilate begin to have a philosophical conversation about truth. And I love Pilate's question, what is truth? See, Pilate doesn't really know Jesus. He doesn't know anything about Jesus. He doesn't understand that Jesus is truth. And so for Pilate, this is just an exercise in futility, actually. He is being puppeted back and forth between the Jewish leadership and Jesus. And he's trying to figure out exactly what the charges are. And in the end, he comes to the conclusion that there is absolutely nothing about this particular man worthy of dying. I find no case against him. Now, he had the power at this moment to let Jesus walk out the front door. He could have said, sorry guys, not going to happen. But he doesn't do that. Again, another moment where we see that the Jewish leadership is really in control. Instead of just releasing Jesus, he says, well, you have this custom. So whose laws are they following here? Pilate's laws or Jewish laws? Roman law or Jewish law? What he does is he ends up following Jewish law, even though he just got here saying, I'm not a Jew. You have this custom that I release someone for you at Passover. So he gives them a choice. Do you want me to release Jesus, or do you want me to release Barabbas, a bandit? Now, what's interesting is the Greek word that they use for bandit is the same word that one might use for someone who has committed sedition. They're both on trial for sedition. So it really is a toss-up. Which one do you want? And of course, they say, no, not Jesus. Give us Barabbas. What we're going to read next week is sort of the continuing tale of this, because Pilate's still not convinced. And we're going to see what happens with this. This unconvinced Pilate doesn't want to put Jesus to death. But every time he deals with the Jewish leadership, he gets pushed further and further into a corner. As I studied this passage, I actually called my dear friend Janet and said, hey, can you come into the office? Because we need to have a conversation about this, because I was like twisted in my head. This is one of those sort of theological passages that get me going. It's the kind of thing that keeps me up until 3 in the morning. I'm not teasing. Now, to some of you, it probably makes no difference whatsoever what Pilate does or what Jesus did or what the Sanhedrin did. It just doesn't matter. But for me, this particular passage sets the stage for some really interesting theological problems. Who's in charge? That's a problem. And the reason it's a problem is because we're taught so often that Jesus was led to the cross for a particular reason, that he dies on the cross for a particular reason, and we might have to rethink that just a little bit. Who's in charge? And why? Why did the Jewish people want so desperately to get rid of Jesus? How many of you remember the scene where Jesus comes riding into Jerusalem on a donkey. And they're singing, Hosanna, Hosanna, based on the musical, right? And they're waving palms. We're coming up to that Sunday soon. They're so excited that he's there. And he's there for Passover, and all of these people are just riled up about his presence. What does that do to the people in power and authority? Threatens them. See, they had a really nice setup. The Jewish leaders were over the temple. They had this nice little arrangement with the Roman government. We'll keep the people in line, you kind of stay out of our business, and we'll police them for everything they have. It was a great arrangement. Are you kidding? I would have liked that kid. Take all the land, take all the money, I'm going to get rich off of you. It works. It works. And then Jesus comes along. And he's saying things like, the first shall be last and the last shall be first. And that kind of piques somebody's curiosity and go, whoa, wait a minute. And he starts talking about things of a divine nature. And they're like, whoa, wait a minute, we don't want to give anybody any ideas. And in John especially, you get this idea that the Pharisees are always just off to the side listening to these conversations that Jesus is having with his followers. He's listening and saying, who is this guy that's slowly taking one by one all of these people that we have our thumb on and liberating them? Not necessarily in the way you think. And yes, they were hoping for a Messiah. Yes, they wanted to be free from Roman occupation. They were hoping that someone would come along and raise an army. But Jesus wasn't doing that. So he couldn't be the foretold Messiah. No. He couldn't be that. Because he wasn't trying to raise an army. He was trying to get people to think for themselves. That's even more dangerous. We see this being played out not only in this scene, but in the many scenes to come, all the way up into the point of the cross. And then even after Jesus' death, we see it being played out in the resurrection. And Pilate is the one who's due. And the Jewish leadership, they try to recover. Not so sure how well they did. There's so many parallels in this particular passage to the things that we're experiencing right now in this moment. If ever there was a moment where the leadership is quaking in their boots, now is the moment. We have teenagers rising up and saying, no more. We have kids who have no power, no authority, rising up and saying, we're done. If you can't get it done, we'll get it done. Imagine this twist. See, Pilate, he's a wonderful representative of the waffling nature of people in authority who are trying to please everybody and end up pleasing nobody. The Jewish leadership, they represent the way we've always done it. They stand on their law, their ceremony, how we've always done it. Don't rock the boat. We've got it good. We're making money off of this thing. Don't mess it up. And then you have Jesus who's leading this great group of people, and they're saying, no more, we're tired. If you can't get it done, we will. And with every great revolution, there's always death. And that's the sad part. When Jesus comes before Pilate, he knows what's going to happen. He's not stupid. He knows that he's headed to the worst kind of death imaginable. He knows that Pilate is going to cave, because that's what leadership does. But he has some interesting words to say. See, Jesus really isn't concerned at this particular moment about being king like Pilate is king. And he says to Pilate, my kingdom is not from this world. As in, I'm no threat to you. Don't worry about me. If you're worried about me, you're really worried about the wrong things. My kingdom is not from this world. If my kingdom weren't from this world, my followers would be fighting to keep me from being handed over to the Jews. That's a bold statement. But imagine Jesus saying to his followers, I got this. Don't worry about what's about to happen, because what's about to happen is supposed to happen. Now, some would say that some of the followers were chicken. And we see this running scattered right up to the moment of crucifixion. Because they don't really know how to respond. They've never been in this situation before. They've never lost a leader like this. And it's shameful. The cross is shameful. It's the most detestable way that someone can die. But Pilate, trying to get to the bottom of everything. So, you are a king. I guess if you talk about your kingdom, you're also saying that you're a king. I did a little research, as I often do. And I've been looking at all the different times in Scripture that the words kingdom of God, that phrase, when was that used? And it's fascinating to me how frequently Jesus used it to describe both the here and the now moment, as in the kingdom of God has drawn near, the kingdom of God is here, the kingdom of God is coming, and to also describe entering the kingdom of God. It's a both and. It's another one of those interesting paradoxes that we have from Jesus to talk about the here and the now. In this moment, the kingdom is happening, it is unfolding, and also at some point in the future, the kingdom will be realized. What Jesus says is, you say that I'm a king. He didn't even own it. He didn't have to. But he does say, for this I was born, and for this I came into the world, to testify to the truth. What a neat little twist. So now he's equating kingship and kingdom with truth, which is the ultimate philosophical question. And Pilate asked, what is truth? What is truth? The Greeks could debate this for decades and never come up with a decent enough answer. Jesus just summed it up by saying, I am truth. I am truth. This little game of chicken that is happening between Pilate and Jesus. I keep thinking that Jesus is going to be the one to flinch. I keep thinking that Jesus is going to be the one to sort of throw up his hands and say, you got me. But that's not what happens at all. Pilate's the one that flinches. Repeatedly. Pilate flinches with the Jewish leadership. Pilate flinches with Jesus. Pilate flinches with his wife. Pilate flinches all over the place. And pretty much no one except Jesus wants to accept responsibility for what's about to happen. Pilate doesn't want to accept responsibility for his role in this because somehow he knows in that moment when he asks the words or asks the question, what is truth? He intuitively knows the answer even if he doesn't want to say it out loud. The Jewish leaders certainly don't want to accept responsibility. But they also know the truth. They also know what's about to happen. And because these entities are willing to avoid responsibility, you see this interesting role reversal. It's kind of like the child telling the parent what they are and are not going to do. And getting wet. I want to respect Pilate. I really do. I want to respect this leader of the Roman Empire, but I don't. And I want to respect the Jewish people, the leadership. I want to think of them as doing good and right by their people, but I don't. And what I came to realize is that because these folks were so willing to point the finger elsewhere, to avoid responsibility, I really lost respect for the whole lot of them. See, what I wanted to happen in this story is for the Jewish people, the leadership, to own it. To say, you know what, we don't like you because you're messing up our gig. That's what I wanted. And I wanted Pilate to say, you're not the boss of me. But he did. And so we have this really muddy situation, and Jesus is caught in the middle. And I suppose, in some way, this is exactly where Jesus wanted to be, caught in the middle. Because Jesus ends up looking better and better and better. Out of the three players here, Caiaphas, Pilate, and Jesus accepts responsibility. What is true? I find no case against him. And yet somehow Jesus dies. This whole passage seems like a setup to me. And I think that we experience this kind of thing throughout our lives, situations where we feel sad. And perhaps the best piece of good news that we can glean from this part of scenario is that if we are living our lives with integrity, if we are accepting personal responsibility, we have nothing to fear, even if we are facing death.